starting with the first objective, your domain, your range, your notation, which of those do we want to see, do, go over, have questions about? One.
And then can we do 4?
4.
You do 3.
Yes. Let's focus on this page first. Alright, so for number 1, you're looking for domain and range. So domain is, yes, go.
Isn't it negative infinity to just positive infinity?
Yes, you're looking furthest left to furthest right. This has arrows, so you have to remember it keeps going down and left and down and right. So if it keeps going in both directions, it starts at negative infinity and ends at infinity.
I forget, does the bracket or the parentheses matter for this or no?
It does matter. For infinity, positive and negative is always parentheses, no matter what. I'm also going to write this is your interval notation, I'm going to write it in set builder notation also. You just need to be able to write them both ways if they ask for a specific way. If it doesn't, then it doesn't matter. Right. Range is lowest to highest. So where would the lowest be? Negative infinity.
Negative what?
Because it's going to keep going down, so you're going lowest to highest.
But it's at negative 2.
For this one?
Okay, never mind. Yeah.
That one would start at negative 2 for number 2. Where would this stop? 0. And because there is a closed dot there, that's going to be a bracket. Square bracket. So
if it stops, say, where they are at the bottom, then it would not go further.
yeah, so like if it stopped here and it had endpoints instead of arrows, you would do from there to there. And it would be between 2 numbers instead of the infinities. Right. The other way to write this would be everything below 0 or y is less than or equal to 0. Questions on that before we continue? For number 3 is looking for where on the graph is this constant. So you're looking for, as you're looking left to right, where are your y values staying the same?
Negative. That's negative 2, right? Negative 1.
So negative what to negative 1? Negative 5 to negative 1. So always x values for these. This is an open circle, so parenthesis at negative 5. There isn't an open circle, so you can assume it to be closed at negative 1. So that would be square bracket.
So just be sure, open circle is parentheses and closed circle is bracket.
And if you forget that, it's on the board.
Wait, where?
In the vocab section. Right? There's another place where it's constant. Where does that start? Where does that end? 1 to 3. 1 to 3. So because there's a second part, you're going to put a U in between them. 1 to 3. They both don't have open circles, so you can assume them to be closed. Eva, are you writing this down?
So when they don't have circles, we assume them to be closed.
Unless it's an arrow going to infinity or negative infinity. Yes. This only asks about constant, but if it says something about increasing, you're looking at left to right where your x values keep going up, but your y values are also going up. Where is this increasing? x value 0 to 1, but it doesn't start at 0. It does end at 1. It starts at -1. So this entire section is increasing. There isn't anywhere it's decreasing. This last piece, your y values keep going, they're changing, but your x values are not moving, so this would not be decreasing. Okay. Just remember to always use x values for those. Other questions on that before we move on? The square brackets. It depends on what's given. This was open. That's why we use parentheses. Everything else was assumed to be closed. Other questions on that one? 4, you are rewriting, so these are basically opposites of each other. These you write like this, and this you write like this. This is an interval, you want to write it in interval notation, so you have to think about where would you start and where would you end. If x is greater than 1, where would that start? Where would that end?
Wouldn't it start at 1?
Mm-hmm.
And then keep on going to positive infinity?
Mm-hmm. Would the 1 be a bracket or a parenthesis?
Bracket.
Parentheses, because this one does not have an equal to underneath. Other questions on this objective? Sure. So 5, you're going the opposite way. It tells you what your interval notation is, and we have to write it like this. From negative infinity to 4, is that below 4 or above 4?
Below.
Below. So that has to be less than or less than or equal to. Which one would it be? Since it's a parenthesis. Strictly less than. And then you put x or y, does not matter. So you can leave it like this, or if you want to add in the extra notation, put a line in front of it, an x in front of that, and curly brackets in front of it. Don't have to do that part, you can just leave it like x is less than or either or, it doesn't matter. If it's in between two numbers, so like if I said from 2 to 4, it's going to look similar, but there should be an x in between it. And always less than, or equal to signs. Other questions on this objective? Hold on 1 second. So. For which one? Number 5. Like how do you do that? You have to think about, you could draw a number line if you want to see it visually, but without doing it visually, you would have to think, okay, if it starts at negative infinity and goes to 4, would that be everything below 4 or above it? Below. And that's why it's less than. So what were you saying? This one? Yeah. This is greater, yes. So the points to the right is greater. Alright, on the back. We can do 2 of objective 2. Which ones do you want to do? C, go over.
Yeah, I guess 4.
4 is a good one. Julia? Let's actually do 1 and 4 instead of 3 and 4 because they're the same function, and these are both left, so those would be similar. Alright, so 1, these, you're given transformation words, and you have to put it into an equation. You're given what your function is, so that has to be somewhere in your equation. Look at the transformations they gave you, decide on, are they horizontal, are they vertical? That will help you decide on, are they going to be inside the equation or outside? So translated 5 units to the left, is that horizontal or vertical?
Horizontal.
Horizontal. Horizontal things happen inside. If it's reflected over the x-axis, so if this is your x-axis and it's doing this, is that horizontal or vertical? Vertical. So that's going to happen on the outside.
So that'd be a negative one?
Yes, -1 or negative, either or. So then you would start writing your equation, f of x equals vertical reflections, vertical stretches, vertical compressions go first outside. We have that vertical reflection. Franco said it was -1, so you can put the 1 or just make it negative. Does not matter.
And it's not absolute.
It's not. So we're going to use parentheses. How would we say translated 5 units to the left?
X minus 5.
Opposite? Plus. So whatever it is, if it's going to the left, even though it's going into the negative, when you put it in the equation, it would make it a positive. So it's always the opposite. And then you need the square on the outside because this one was squared. Questions on that before we do 4? Okay. 4 gives you a different function. Make sure you put the right function in your equation, otherwise it will be wrong. This is stretched horizontally by a scale of 1/2, and it tells you it's horizontally. So that one's going to be inside automatically. It is reflected across the x-axis. So that's horizontal or vertical?
It's vertical.
Vertical. Translated 12 units to the left. Horizontal or vertical?
Horizontal. Yeah, horizontal.
Horizontal. Okay, so we can start to write our equation. F of x equals,
Wouldn't it be negative?
would be negative outside of the absolute value.
X. No. Because the one doesn't the 1/2 come first?
Yeah, the 1/2 comes first. It's a little weird for this one because of the 1/2 and the translated. So we're going to use parentheses after the 1/2 so that the 1/2 and the translated aren't affecting each other.
So then wouldn't it be X? Yeah. That's it?
That's it. Don't add in extra things. Only put what's there. Other questions on that one? It depends on what it's saying. So because it's across the x-axis, that's vertical. If it said y-axis, that would be horizontal. Alright, let's do these next ones. So for these, you're given graphs and have to write the equations. You'll need to know what type of function these are. So first, is this your x squared, your quadratic, or your absolute value?
Absolute no. Is it absolute value?
This is your x squared, your quadratic. It's a U shape. That should tell you it's quadratic. It's the x squared. And then if you want, you can draw in your parent function so you can compare what happened, what changed. If you don't remember what that is, if you go into your y equals and type in x squared and go into your table, second graph, you can find the middle and then graph out. So this would start at 0, 0, go 1, 1, negative 1, 1, 2, 4, negative 2, 4. Drawing in the parent function is not a necessity, but if it helps you see it, definitely do that.
What is it? vertically went down.
It did vertically shift.
Yeah, vertically shift, but it also got wider.
Not necessarily. Cynthia, can you tap screen share? The orange. It did shift down, and I'm going to show you here in a second that it looks like it got wider, but it's really the same. 2, 3, 1, 1, 7. Because of the distance between the vertex and the next point is the same as this one. So it didn't get wider, it's the same. It did shift down how much?
It's like,
I don't know what that was. So if it shifted down 4, it would be here. But it's not. It is 4. But if this went down 4 and that was it, it would be here.
oh, and
It's one to the right.
One to the right. Horizontal shift to the right. 1. So if it went down 4 and right 1, it would be overlapping. So that's all it did, just those two. So we can write our equation, f of x equals,
Parentheses x minus 1. Close parentheses squared. Minus 4.
we didn't have any vertical stretches, compressions, reflections, so nothing on the outside would change. Then we had a horizontal shift, so on the inside, and then we had a vertical shift on the outside and the back. Questions on that? Right, so then for this other one, since it's a v, it has to be your your absolute value. You could do the same thing if you don't know what your parent function is, put it into y equals, which is alpha window, and go to your table and look at the points. It starts off the same at 0, 0, goes 1, 1, negative 1, 1, and then it keeps going up 1, right 1, and up 1, left 1. So put this into your calculator, and y equals, go into your graph, or your table, and those values. What changed?
We shifted down right. We shifted right 1, and then got here.
Hold on, you're talking so fast that I can only write so fast. And it did what? What was the last one?
It got like skinny.
It got narrow,
Compression?
so not a compression, but a
Stretch.
stretch by how much?
2?
Yes. Yes. Absolute value lens.
Just that.
This one. Alpha window. And your y equals, and look at your table. Okay. You can tell it's a stretch because the slope has changed. The slope is now 2 instead of 1. So how would you write that?
2.
2, go first. Then your absolute value.
Then x minus 1.
Minus 1, correct.
And on the outside, is that a square?
Not for this one.
Okay. And then just minus 3.
So do not put a square for the absolute value and don't put absolute value bars for the square. Keep those separate. Other questions on that one? Nita?
How would you know
You mean to put in the original?
Yeah, like how would
You have to know what this shape is.
Okay.
You have to know that u is x squared and v is absolute value.
Okay.
Other questions? What you could also do is after you find this, put that back in and see do your points on this, the one that's given match. So if you know what the parent function looks like in your head, no, you don't. For objective 4, you are given equations and have to describe the transformations. So look at the original, look at the new equation, look at what changed. What would those transformations be? It flipped. So how would we write that in our words? It is horizontal. Correct.
Vertical shift 1.
So when you're doing your shifts, make sure you say whether it's vertical, horizontal, that it's a shift, what direction, and by how much. For the second one, same thing. Look at everything that's changed. Keep the negative and the 8 as two separate things because they're two separate transformations. What would the negative do?
Flip it or reflect.
Reflect what type? Vertical. Because this one's on the outside. What would the 8 do?
Down.
Stretch. So if you see a number that's greater than 1, that's a stretch. Disregard the negative because that's its own thing. If it's a fraction and the fraction has a numerator that's smaller than the denominator, that's a compression. And then the 13. Questions on that? And then the last section, you are graphing. So whether you do this using your transformations or you use it in your calculator, does not matter as long as you graph it correctly and put your vertex.
Do we have to state, just to be sure, we used calculator?
Right. So for this one, if you're doing transformations, find your vertex, look at the number on the inside and the outside. What would that vertex be? Backwards. But it would be opposite, so -2, +4. This would be your absolute value function. So it's going to look like a V. What would this negative on the outside do?
Reflect it.
Reflect it in what direction?
Down. Down.
Vertically, yes. So instead of facing up, it's going to face down. Nothing else happened. So the slope is going to be the same. So we're going to go down 1, right 1. I just need 5 points so you can fill up your graph, or you can just do the 5, does not matter. Make sure you have arrows because it does keep going. If you want to double check it, or if you are doing this in the calculator to begin with, put that all in. Look at your, table, find your vertex, and then plot points out from there. And they should be the same. So it goes down to 3, goes down to 2. As long as that matches, you're good. Alpha window. There are questions on that one? Do you have a question? What's your vertex on this one?
-3, -5, right?
Did anything else happen except for those 2 shifts?
It's like this now because it's not absolute.
It is a U shape, so the quadratic. Any other transformations happen? So you can think about your parent function. We drew that up here. So it's going to go out 1 and up 1. And out left and right 2 and up 4. So 2 from your vertex, up 4. And then same thing on the other side. If you want to draw in another set of points, you can. You don't have to. We could double check that as well. Put it in your y equals, go into second graph, look at your table, find your vertex, and go out from there, and the points should be the same. What other questions do we have? In general,
You can ask questions on the quiz, right?
you can ask depending on your question. I don't know if I can answer, but
Okay.
use the board, it's helpful. Okay. Go ahead and put your phones up. If you have a smartwatch, take that off.